I'm not sure it's safe to assume because they're small, that automatically means they're going to be the ones in the most trouble. Hello everybody, how are you going today? It is so good to see you. Since I did my last batch of recording, well, the world has changed quite a lot. And I was thinking this morning, you know, we talk about gear, we talk about buying things, we talk about our love and our lust for cameras and, you know, all the joy and all that sort of stuff. And I have to say it is starting to create a little bit of duality in my head, because it's kind of like, well, some countries are suffering greatly with what's happening at the moment. All countries are suffering somewhat, and you just start to feel like maybe what we're talking about just kind of doesn't fit in the world. And I get that, and I'm very aware of that. And then the flip side of it is, well, I want to be a constant. I want to try and keep this little part of our lives the same. And so another part of me just says, well, this thing, it can be business as usual. But I just want everyone to know and to be aware that I am aware of what is happening outside of the YouTube universe. And I'm very aware that some people are doing it extraordinarily hard compared to other people. And here in Australia, I think we're doing it not hard compared to other parts of the world. And not only does that make me really sad and really worried about other parts of the world, but it just makes me aware of how lucky we are and how it's easy for me to be, relatively, it's easy for me to be normal. So I just want you to know, as this channel continues to try and be as normal as possible, I'm very aware that people all around the world are struggling physically, mentally, financially, on every front. So that's not lost on me, but the flip side is I'm just trying to keep it business as usual. So in light of starting this video that way, as you would have seen with the title in this video, I want to talk about, well, what does this mean to photographers? What does this mean for the photographic industry? What does this mean for photography companies? This is an opinion piece. I've been in business for 30 years, and part of being in business is understanding business, reading trends, trying to get ahead of the curve, you know, all that sort of stuff, predictions and so on, to stay afloat. And photography is an industry that, from when I started in literally kind of 1990 through to today, it's an industry that's absolutely been turned on its head with the advent of, firstly, going from film to digital. Then the next advent was putting video in DSLRs and now in mirrorless cameras. And then the third major disruption has been, of course, photography in mobile devices like phones. Now, this has just been an epic amount of change. So photographers have had to learn to read the play of the universe, understand what's coming over the hill next, and we've had to stay nimble and be very aware of not making ourselves obsolete. So the first part of my opinion piece is just talking about the business of Canon, Nikon, Sony, Olympus. How is everybody going to be playing the game? How are people trying to survive? What are they going to be doing as they can't manufacture, as they can't distribute, as they can't sell? And the world is in various different forms of lockdown, which means now every economy, every continent, every trading center, we're actually working at significantly different speeds. Now, the modern world, modern capitalism has been building this ecosystem that we've been working in, well, pretty much since World War II. It's just been on a constant growth pattern. And so it's taken a long time for it to get into balance, relative balance, because of course it is not in complete balance, and there are highs and lows and pros and cons, and it depends where you go in the world, of course. But It's a machine, it's an ecosystem, it's gotten to where it's gotten, and it's taken a long time. Now the rug has been pulled out from under the feet of global economic function. And this is going to impact all sorts of companies differently. Let's, for example, start with Sony. So Sony are a massive conglomerate. They make video games, televisions, movies, cameras. The list goes on and on of all the different sectors that Sony are in. Many of these sectors are going to be hit very, very hard by what's going on today because Sony have huge investment in discretionary spending items. For example, cameras, TVs, films. This is all discretionary. If you can't go out to watch a film and you can't make any new films, well, you've got no business. If you can't sell any TVs, you've got no business. And if you can't sell cameras because people are worried about their jobs, well, you can't sell them. This is a big concern for a company like Sony. Now, like I said, I'm not making this statement to say this is the end of Sony or the end of anyone. This is not my point of talking about this, but it's just food for thought as to why and how these companies might get impacted. And then what's the fallout? And the fallout is something that we don't really have the answers to. But going back to how, say, Canon and Nikon will respond as well. Canon is a company that also has a very large range of products that we would call discretional. You don't have to have them. And that includes cameras and video cameras and high-end printing machines and so on. Now they do, I believe, work in the medical industry as well. So they create some medical products and surveillance products and things like that. So that's the sort of products that will keep moving. And Nikon, well, Nikon's business, actually a growth part of their business before all of this, and a big part of their business is microscopes and other technology in the science industries. And Nikon are not reliant. It's not a very large part of their business is actually cameras. It's just a component. I think it's under 50%. My point here is to look at these companies and see what their risk, what their exposure is to the world, not grinding to a halt, but this epic slowdown in discretionary spending. For example, we know the PS5 is launching in 2020. What does that mean for Sony now? Will the PS5 still make it out? And how will it impact supply? Will there be constraint? Look, so on and so forth. And then how does this affect the company as a whole? Camera companies' sales are in decline at the moment because there's a shift. So what do the bean counters at Sony do? I don't know, I don't have the answers, but this is all just food for thought. Ultimately, one way that this could tumble, and again, I'm just blue skying, I'm just spitballing because nobody really knows how this is going to tumble, and a big part of that is, well, how long will it last? There's a lot of merit in that notion that the bigger they are, the harder they fall. I think we need to be very careful to assume that the smaller companies, whether it's Olympus, Pentax, Nikon, those companies that are at the smaller or more fragile end of the spectrum, I'm not sure it's safe to assume because they're small, that automatically means they're going to be the ones in the most trouble. I think there is a set of circumstances and a set of trajectories which could have the larger companies in more trouble because they've got more things they have to look after, whereas these smaller companies are more used to being nimble, moving quickly, having small market share, and they survive a different way. My very business itself is an example of that. Being small means you can pivot on a dime and you can work out what to do next and how to do it. Something that's really interesting is I saw this great article in DP Review about Sigma lenses, and they seem to have kind of one production factory in Japan, and they're just still able to chip away and do what they do, and they can be very nimble as to who they make lenses for, whether it's mirrorless and which mount and so on. So I think Sigma are a really interesting example of a company that is achieving what I'm talking about. Let's not assume that just because a company's big, that guarantees it survival. The second thing I wanted to talk about was, well, photographers. What does this mean for us? Well, that's a really difficult question to answer because there are so many different types of photographers. Part of what I've enjoyed about my world in photography is that I have been very nimble and I have worked in many different sectors of what photographic media allows for. So what do I mean by that? Well, not only have I been a photographic service provider, taking photos for companies so they can use them on their websites, books, annual general reports, etc., etc., but I've also created my own products since 1991, my greeting cards, so that I'd have a dual stream and a stream that I was in control of. Also on the side, not only doing photographic services, but I've been making videos the entire time as well. And I've watched great change happen in the video industry, not just in the photography industry, where we've gone from shooting on 16mm to 16mm film to get the best result in the late 80s and the early 90s, to SP Betacam, to getting away with mini DV, and then from mini DV we got to what we call digital today. So that has changed a lot and I've enjoyed that journey as well. To be here 30 years later, you have to evolve and you have to keep changing and you have to have your fingers in many pies, as they say. None of us are immune to what's happening right now. Photography, whether businesses require photography, new images, new staff, all these different sectors, many parts of photography are discretionary. And I saw this no more profoundly than during the global financial crisis in 2008. And you just saw companies contracting their spending. So the reality is, yeah, times are going to be tough and business will contract and we won't have as much work. So we have to continue to be nimble. We have to continue to look for new opportunities and we just have to keep being the best versions of ourselves. It's going to be tough times for creators. When I say creators, I mean all creators, whether you are a graphic artist, whether you are a musician with the symphony orchestra in your city, whether you're a street artist who draws chalk drawings on the pavement, every single sector of the arts. I feel like this is going to change the world profoundly, and we don't quite know what that is yet. One of the biggest players, I think, in how we reshape the new future world, it's going to be shaped by people like us, the artists, the creators, and we colour the world. We colour the world and we bring joy to the world. We've got to be here, we've got to keep doing what we do, we've got to keep doing what we love, we've got to stay positive, and that's all there is to it. And I just want to throw to this picture that I've had on the side of the frame over here the whole time. Now this was being created for an exhibition that was going to happen just before this whole thing kicked off. And this is my joy. This picture was created, I don't know, some 35 years after I first picked up a 35mm camera, and I still love what I do, and this picture here gives me great joy. Keep doing what you do for you and the joy that it creates. There's no other reason. And then beyond that, if we can just all survive the initial financial tsunami, let alone the health tsunami, don't stop creating. Don't stop being you. Let's never lose sight of why you first started. And in the case of most of us, we did it, we do it because we love it. You know, if our camera company isn't there on the other side of all of this, which is where this video started, it doesn't matter. Because, as I said a few episodes ago here, the gear that we've got right now, it makes us gods and we don't need more. So don't worry about it. As always, it is so good to have had you here today. And of course, if this is your first time here and you'd like to see me again, please subscribe. Please share, it makes us all smarter, and please like, because it helps get the word out there, and sometimes when you don't get enough likes, you get a little bit sad. If you'd like to see more than 150 videos about all things related to photography and photography business and filmmaking and all that sort of stuff, click on the Matter of Photography here, and stay safe out there. Bye.